Come to mention it, weren't you the one who started that rebellion? By sailing to Casterly Rock and burning the Lannister fleet? You certainly caught us there.
And so the time has come. Game of Thrones Season 7, Episode 1, Dragonstone has come and gone. And, oh shit, I guess you actually want me to fucking talk about it. So here we go. It wasn't awful, alright? I'm sorry to disappoint all the bloodthirsty of you out there who want to just hear me rip everything apart, but the episode it just wasn't awful, alright? I can't say something was awful if it wasn't awful, alright? This is how it goes. Now, it's also possible that I've just become completely desensitized to the Game of Thrones bullshit, you know? And how they have scenes that don't make much sense, but they're still there, and you have to accept it because all the characters on screen accept it, and then the millions of dumbass fans who watch it accept it, and then treat you like you're the weirdo for pointing out logical inconsistencies. So sometimes I'm not sure if they're just some bullshit things that I can't tell anymore because I've been indoctrinated by society, or if it actually was just a decent episode. I'm gonna go with the latter because I'm a solipsist. So also a quick note before we start. I have, of course, read all of the Season 7 script leak that came out, half a year ago. But I will not be talking about them or mentioning them just to not alienate anyone who might be watching this who hasn't seen them. I won't be referring to any of the leaks. And when I make predictions, keep in mind that I'm definitely not making these predictions, just taking from the leaks, trying to sound cool. They're my own predictions, and they might have been inceptionized by the leaks, but I don't think so. I'm not trying to spoil you here, folks. That's just not my intention. All right, let's continue. So we start out with one of my predictions from last year being confirmed almost immediately, with Arya having taken the face of Walder and taken up his place as Lord of the Twins. Now, I could sit here for about 10 minutes and ask a couple questions, like, how did Arya actually get away with murder? Not only was she able to procure complete control of all the Frey kitchens non-violently for the hours and hours it took to bake a pie made out of the corpses of 2 Freys she had already murdered. She was able to do all that without arousing any suspicion. Black Walder Frey and Emmett Frey just disappear and no Freys ever question it. Then she's able to murder Lord Walder Frey without anyone finding out, steal his face, take his place, hide his original body without anyone seeing or finding out. She's then able to procure enough poison to murder an entire dining room, somehow. I'm not sure if Walder had that on him, if she took it with her from the Black and White, what have you. She's able to procure all this shit, get all these circumstances all together perfectly, gather everyone. The Freys are all dumb enough to not suspect anything when Old Man Walder, who never gives them anything nice, calls them in for the second feast in the week. He raises a toast saying, "Thank God we're murderers," and everyone's like, "Huzzah, we're murderers! Yeah, let's drink more." And then they do that, and then not a single Frey decides not to take a drink. They all, whatever, Game of Thrones, everyone drinks. But okay, so that happens. Arya gives one of the best badass lines in the series history, and then the credits play. And I could ask, was there not a single guard on duty? Was there no extra security? No one just outside the doors? No one around to hear every living Frey die? And what about the children? What about the 10 to 15-year-old boys who would surely be invited to a Frey feast such as this? They weren't actually there. What happened to all of those Freys? All those up-and-coming youngin' Freys who are still kind of demented but didn't show up at the banquet? Where were they? I just want to know about that. And then Arya is able to just leave, and we're assumed she steals a horse then? Horse stealing on top of murder is just one of the worst crimes you can commit. Where'd she get the horse? She stole it? That she would have been hunted down real quick for that. Arya, you can fool the dumbass Freys. You can't fool the police, man. Seriously, Grand Theft Horse. Where the fuck did... Bullshit. Now, I could sit here and ask all those questions, but I won't do that because the scene was pretty fucking cool, and wouldn't I be a nitpicking asshole to do that to you? Then we get a long, drawn-out vision of the dead army, just reminding us, hey guys, remember, the dead are still a thing. Here they are. Look, there's some dead giants. Pretty cool. And it was pretty cool. If we're really going here playing, like the show really is, obviously, playing off the White Walkers as the ultimate antagonists of the series, which I don't tend to fall for, but if you're really trying to establish that, having really haunting, scary music play anytime they show up, and having them just always look pissed and ready to murder. That's a really good way to make them antagonists. And then we see Bran coming back to the wall. Then he has a conversation with Dolorous Ed when he gets there and convinces him that he's Bran Stark by saying he saw them at the Fist of the First Men and at Hardhome, when actually Bran didn't see Ed there either times. I mean, we're supposed to assume that he saw him in a vision off screen, and now Bran, this is supposed to establish how wise Bran is and whatnot. But I mean, Bran has seen Ed before. Bran saw Ed at Craster's Keep. That's how they know each other. Ed has been north of the wall 3 times, and Bran has met Ed there once. And that's the only place Bran doesn't mention. Bran doesn't mention Craster's Keep, even though that's the only place Bran actually saw Ed. Okay, whatever, fuck. Alright, moving on. Now we get back to Winterfell, otherwise known as the biggest what the fuck ever of last season's finale. Okay, so there's so much to unpack here. And first of all, I want to bring up something that I saw. I'm not going to take credit for this. I saw the Facebook page, Stannis Baratheon as the new Chuck Norris. They brought this up. They say, when Littlefinger came in to save the day during the Battle of the Bastards, why did he not immediately capture and execute Jon Snow for being a Night's Watch deserter, when that would have most clearly benefited his plans? Okay, see, where we are right now is that Littlefinger is right now trying to get Sansa to become queen, right? Because then he thinks he has more control over her. That's the situation he's in. Having Jon become King of the North doesn't benefit him at fucking all, right? So you're seeing right now the culmination of the dumbass Peter Baelish. Okay, back in seasons 1 through 4, he was this plotting schemer who seemed like he always had everything figured out. And then season 5 came along, and we're expected to accept that Peter does all these really, to us, seem really clearly dumb decisions, sending Ramsay to the Boltons to live because she'll be safe there, thinking he can get around Moat Cailin with an entire Valeman army. Just the dumbass things we see Peter do. But this isn't the Peter from the books we're dealing with. This is the Peter from the show. And Peter from the show kind of just wings it. And things tended to work out for him in earlier seasons, and they're not working out for him now. I guess he just truly didn't appreciate the ability of a chanting crowd in the North. That's something you can't ever underestimate. If some guy starts chanting king, someone's gonna get made king. And you know what? Drunk Northerners almost never start chanting queen. He should have seen this coming. But anyway, yes, and I still can't believe, okay, are we really going to go the rest of the show without a single Northern Lord questioning why Jon Snow deserted the Night's Watch? Okay, because I bring this up with my friends, and I bring this up in real life, and people usually get upset with me. They're like, Ravor, don't you fucking understand? He died and came back. The Night's Watch oath is until my death. Okay, man? He's not a deserter. Stop calling Jon Stark a deserter, bro. It makes me upset. It triggers me, bro. Now, I'm sorry if it triggers you, bro, but he's a fucking Night's Watch deserter, alright? You expect all these old-ass white men, old God-fearing bastards, that Jon Snow was stabbed to death and then resurrected a couple of days later by a red demon? Excuse me? Okay, if you want the Northerners to believe that, fine, it's your story. Have a scene establishing the fact that they've accepted that, because I haven't seen that fucking scene. Okay? I'm over here trying to figure out why his head isn't off his body by now. And it's just, he's King of the North. And he's a Night's Watch deserting bastard. And Peter could have prevented all of it, was the point I think I was trying to get to before I started all that. But anyway, in this scene, we see Jon wants to re-welcome the Karstark and Umber children, even though their fathers betrayed him. And Sansa's like, Jon, that sounds pretty bullshit to me. I think we should give the castles to someone who, deserves them more. Someone who didn't betray us. And then they have a quick spat. And it's 2 ideologies. Neither of them were right or wrong. I was just really excited to see the conflict. I'm like, fuck yeah, Sansa. Fucking talk. Don't take this shit. You had your birthright stolen from you, bitch. Be upset. But then they ruin it a scene later by having her come up to Jon and say, oh, Jon, I wasn't really trying to, upset you. I just wanted to get my point across. Joffrey didn't listen to anyone. So that entire conflict was dissolved right there. But, it's episode 1. Hints of things to come. But, if the leaks are to be believed, blah, blah, blah. God damn it. Fuck, I almost went there. It's fucking stupid, folks. And one of my favorite things from this scene is Jon bragging about how the punishment for treason is always death. Except for like 2 days ago, Jon, when you let Melisandre go. Remember that? She murdered a little girl and you just let her go. I guess, I'm sorry. She wasn't treasonous. She wasn't treasonous. Abandoning her king in the moment of battle, that wasn't treason. Don't worry about it, Jon. You're not a hypocrite. You're not a hypocrite, Jon. I love you. You're my favorite character, Jon Stark. You're the trueborn king. And moving on to King's Landing, we see the Lannisters, Cersei and Jaime, who have a bit of a conversation, and it's a bit of an enlightening conversation. And it's a dialogue scene that I didn't notice too much bullshit in, which is something that you really can't take for granted in Game of Thrones. All right. Two people having a conversation, and I'm never really outraged by the stupidity of something they said. I mean, Jaime did say, "I know the Ironborn," which I really questioned at first. I was like, Jaime, how the fuck do you know the Ironborn? And then later on in the episode, he talks about how he was there at Pike and taking back in the Greyjoy rebellions and whatnot. I'm like, all right, you murdered a bunch of Ironborn for a couple days in a battle. All right, that's what you call knowing Ironborn. That qualifies you to know their intentions going into a negotiation or peace agreements. Shut up, Jaime. But that was really the only thing. That was a pretty cool conversation, really firmly establishing that Cersei is fucking insane, and the exterior is gonna get cracked this season, folks. I can't wait for that moment, because Lena Headey is low-key, high-key the fucking best actress on this show, the best female actor on this show. I don't think you can question that. She's fucking brilliant. So when eventually this season, I'm assuming, or next, just when everything starts to go wrong and she fucking cracks and like doesn't whisper anymore and she actually starts fucking screaming and being insane Cersei, I just want to see that. I want to see that so bad. I think I mentioned last year that Cersei's my new favorite character on the show. I stand by that. Fuck yeah, Cersei. Just go insane and fucking burn everything, and fucking, as long as we're doing fan fiction, make it fucking cool, blow everyone up that I don't like fan fiction. Then they have their peace talks with Euron, and, you know, he offers to marry Cersei on the grounds that he has a big cock and Theon has no cock. And Cersei says no, and then Euron's like, remember me when I burned down the fleet at Casterly Rock? And I'm like, no, you didn't. Victarion did. But then I'm like, oh, fuck you. You did. I don't give a... And then Jaime's like, I was there at Pike. I was through the breach first, and I cut down all of your kin. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to mention how Stannis pretty much orchestrated that entire offensive. And Stannis is the general who won the Greyjoy rebellions. But no, we won't mention that. And then he offers to go bring Cersei a gift to convince her to marry him, which, oh my gosh, could be 1.5 million things. But I know what it is, so I won't say. And then finally, to wrap it up, we see Daenerys coming to Dragonstone. She sets foot on the ground and runs her fingers through the sand of the beaches and seems to think to herself,
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
And then she just kind of walks in through the front doors. Did no one fucking stay to guard Dragonstone? I understand this isn't the books, and, you know, we don't have to name the specific knight, Roland Storm, who was sent to protect Dragonstone. But, I mean, nothing? Okay, so I can accept the fact that Stannis didn't leave any defenses of Dragonstone in the show. But okay, whatever. I can accept that because, you know, he spent all his pieces north to save the world and didn't leave anyone behind. Okay, makes sense. You're telling me in the 6 months since the Lannisters haven't noticed Dragonstone is completely undefended and gone to reclaim it? And or are you saying that the awesome siege of Dragonstone involving Tyrell and Dornish ships besieging Lannister ships, that was just off screen? I doubt that happened because Dragonstone is so defensible. The Lannisters, who were sitting and doing fuck all in season 5 and 6, didn't send 20 good men to go and take back Dragonstone? Okay, bro. So Daenerys just walks in through the front doors, finds a Stannis banner because, you know, we can't go 30 seconds without proving that Daenerys has a big cock, whereas Stannis has no cock. Then she walks into the throne room, sees the cool-ass chair that Stannis never got to sit in for some reason, and then goes into the map where she sees the cum stain next to Loras's birthmark left by good old Stan the Man. Then she says, shall we get started? And the fucking episode ends. Can you imagine that as a chapter in the book? You turn the page, Daenerys lands in Westeros the first time, the culmination of 6.5 books. You turn the page and it describes her touching the beach, and it describes all of Dragonstone and all the birds and all the smells and the sights and the visuals. And she's walking up the steps and she walks to the door and they slowly open, and then she walks to the throne and she has an emotional moment and Grey Worm moves forward but Missandei holds him back, and then It's all dramatic, and then she walks in and she sees this massive map of Westeros, the continents that seems to be hers, and then she says one word of dialogue and the chapter ends. Like, and that would be the most worthless. Nothing of all was added. It's just a dick stroking scene, which, I mean, television's a different format, I understand that, but I mean, at the same time, nothing. You made me sit there for 6 minutes watching nothing of substance. Like, we knew she was in Dragonstone based on a throwaway line of dialogue we got in that scene between Cersei and Jaime I mentioned. We already knew that she was landing in Dragonstone. So this entire scene was just a Daenerys dick-stroking scene, and is not justified. How many millions of dollars did you spend on this scene alone, animating those CGI fucking dragons, for something that didn't matter? This is why you killed off the fucking direwolves? For CGI constraints? This is why you killed off all the fucking Tyrells, all those actors that you didn't want to pay because you're spending too much time animating these fucking dragons in a scene that didn't fucking mean anything? God damn, I hate this show. Bullshit, I say. Welcome back to season 7. I'm Ravor and I yell about things I don't like. Come back later and you might see me do it more. See ya.